Okay, I think we are live. Good afternoon, everybody. Doing something a little bit different today than usual. Today, we will be having an interview with George Wentz of Compete Sport. And, Mark and I have decided to kind of give him the tag team. We're both going to sit here and throw 20 questions at him. So, welcome both of you to Flesh and Blood on Seals.
Thank you. Good to be here. What's up, Chris?
Hey. Glad y'all could make it. Let's make sure this thing is live. Make sure people can actually hear you. So I hope it's working. I don't know. Let's see. Can anybody hear? I see Julian's in the chat.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear my guests? Hopefully you can hear my guests.
No.
Maybe? Bueller? There's like 6 people watching. Triple
Nobody's
Mook, says
helping out.
James. Yep. All right. I think James can hear us. All right, great.
Okay.
Let's go. Cool. Yeah. So, for those who don't know, George Wentz is the owner of Compete Sport. That is located in North Carolina. What was that?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. Okay, Charleston.
South Carolina.
Charleston, South Carolina. Yeah. George got into Flesh and Blood back in 2019. Is that right?
Yeah, late. Yeah.
So
Late
what
2019.
what was it like being a part of, the early days of Flesh and Blood?
I think what people don't realize is that there's a lot of new games all the time. Our store this year will hopefully do about $2 million in revenue. So we're a decent sized store. And so we get sent a bunch of new games every year. And our distributors ask us to try out a bunch of new games every year. This request happened to come from my PhD rep, who happens to be a very good friend of mine. Whenever I'm in Florida, me and him go out for dinner before COVID, obviously. So he's a good friend of mine. So he asked me to take a case and just see how it does. I bought a case, frankly, figuring it would be my last case of Flesh and Blood I ever bought. I sent him the money for it, and that was great. And I remember I had to bribe people with pizza to come in and try Flesh and Blood. I was like, listen, come in, make my distributor happy. You'll never have to buy another box of it, I promise. Come eat pizza on me, and you can tell me the game sucks, and we'll all move on as friends.
That's just crazy, man.
And so it's funny, right after the event, they go, this game's good. But I don't want to be a jerk. They think every game is good. They like games. So I'm like, yeah, okay, if I buy another box, are you going to buy it? I'd buy another box. Then I was like, okay, how much do you think I should buy? They're like, I'd get at least 2 cases. Because I'm bringing my friend to try it next week. And I was like, well, that's different. I have not heard that a lot before. So I called my distributor, said, hey, people liked it. You were right. Give me 2 cases. So I have 8 boxes. I sell all 8 boxes. And this is going, and people are bringing their friends to these events. And all of a sudden, I have 24 people at a freaking draft for Flesh and Blood 4 weeks later.
Sweet.
And then, there was this moment that everything changed. My customers are very big hitters. They, I'd say about half of them have at least 5 figures in Magic collections. And 8 of them came to me and said, can we draft this on Friday instead of Magic?
Golden words uttered for the first time. And was that the first time you've ever heard something like that?
That was, I didn't even know how to process it, let alone how to answer it. And so I told them, no, I can't do that. I don't want Papa Hasbro to come take a hit out on me. And I said, but we'll do this every week. And they said, we'd love that. We want to do competition. We want to do Destructed. We want to do all. This is long before Arcane. This is their first box.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember calling my rep on Monday and saying, you guys have a hit. What you guys are thinking Like, this is not a good game. This is a special game. This is a game that's going to change a lot of the way people view collectible card games. And, the trick is, like, and I don't think people remember this, every card was worthless. There was no market. You couldn't, if you pulled a heart, you were upset because you couldn't play it.
Right. It doesn't really have a place in the deck, right? So what was the point?
It's like, you weren't happy when you pulled a legendary that wasn't part of the deck that you were building. It made no difference it was cold foil. It was so different. And, and the thing that all these kids made out like bandits, because they were buying cases because they were worried it would never get a reprint because most games die.
Oh. And so they were just buying it up so that they could have a little bit for themselves.
They would keep playing it.
Yeah. Wow.
And I mean this, most things that become valuable start off worthless.
Mm-hmm.
This started off absolutely worthless. I mean, like, people asked me in the beginning, like, hey, can I trade in cards? I'm like, no, they're worth like 15 cents. Like, what am I going to do with the Arcanite skull cap or your heart that's going for $5 on eBay? I'm not giving you $3 in store credit for it, okay? Like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Stupid George. It's just, it is so unbelievably different than it is today. It's like, it's hard to process. It's been a year and something.
So George, do you have in-person tournaments at Compete Sport now, or is it just online?
So
or?
we're on the military base, so we're actually ordered to stay open.
Oh.
We never closed in a way that was very odd. We are masked, we are distanced, I think I bathe in hand sanitizer every day, and so does my store manager. We do all we can to make it as safe as possible. But we still have competitions every week.
Do you feel like obviously being open, having the Flesh and Blood events in the Flesh and Blood, do you feel like that's been a huge advantage for you? Or do you think, what's your feel for that? Like, a lot of folks are getting into it virtually right now. Are they getting the same experience or not?
So I think the best thing LSS has ever done is the skirmish events. That so drastically shifted the market towards playable cards in a way that's much healthier. And I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I think the thing that LSS hit on is that they hit on the collectible side and the card game side.
Yeah.
And those two are interrelated but not identical. I know, somebody on this chat has a heart, and that's great. And like that, they don't buy that heart because it's going to go great with their deck. It's because it's a really rare Flesh and Blood card.
Yep.
I think what people need to remember is that that's only possible because the card game is awesome. If the card game sucks, nobody cares that you have a rare card.
Yep, that's true. You could have any rare cards you want from any number of TCGs that have failed in the past. I've got a few on the shelf behind me. Yeah, it's like, nope, don't matter.
Right. So I think having in-store play help, but I think they've done a really good job of doing all they can to recreate that experience online. And we're hosting another tournament next month online because I sponsor a play group in Alaska. We sponsor play groups in Nevada. We sponsor play groups in New Mexico.
Nice.
So we've tried very hard to be as close to an LGS for people without one for this game as we can. I can't do all of it, but if you're a play group, we try to get you boxes. First dibs, $80 a buck. We try very hard to grow the game. Because, listen, I have invested a lot in this game, and I need it to last for a very long time. I need to do all I can to make sure that that's working.
I think that's the beautiful part about everything you're saying there. Because, going even just back to the Magic days, nobody knows how to play a card game when you open up your first pack. That's the funny thing about a card game. So you're looking at it. It's just so aesthetically pleasing in certain ways. I remember my first, comparing it to Magic the Gathering here, where you would just see the artwork for the first time. You'd be like, wow, that's really cool. And I remember seeing, all these Flesh and Blood cards and looking at the artwork, and I'm like, this is amazing. It almost created that same feeling I had when I was 13 years old looking at a Magic the Gathering artwork for the first time. And that's what really hooks people to the game. They say, when it's almost like going out on a date, there has to be something physically appealing to it before you get to know the person inside. Otherwise, the date never happens. And I think the fact that you were able to be forced to remain open on your military base was just such a blessing, because you were not only allowing players to buy the game, get that aesthetically pleasing feeling, but they were actually able to experience it through a game based on your LGS, when obviously, as you know, there weren't really any LGSs that were open, at least in the 2020 part, the late 2019 part. But after February, March 2020, all of them here in New Jersey, New York, they were just shut down. That was it. And the fact that you were able to create that experience, I think, sort of created a very positive spark, which allowed more people to just go ahead and want it and buy it. And I think you are a very major part of the success in the game in the United States, and being able to spread it sort of to this continent by just having, again, just one little LGS. All right, not super little compared to all of them, but on the grand scale of things in the United States,
Fleshandblood.com.
Sort of picked it up. Yeah, fleshandblood.com. And I think it was just a positive experience for everyone to do that, and you were able to channel so much positivity in the game, because the player, your base right now, your player base, they're coming out right now with the new products coming out. They remember all the good times playing with their friends. I mean, you pretty much created lifeys in the game where they're going to probably be playing for as long as this game wants to continue. And creating something like that is so much more powerful, for example, than somebody going online to one of the big, websites and saying, oh, look, there's a Flesh and Blood box, let me check it out. You created a more dynamic, unique experience than anyone else would have just randomly purchasing a booster box. And I think that's very important.
I appreciate that. Something I've tried to take very seriously over the last year is I feel a responsibility to LSS to help other LGSs I talk to understand how special this game is. Because I think you're right that nothing can replace that feeling of going to a place with your friends playing a game. Right? I'm not selling you cardboard, I'm selling you an experience. Cardboard's key. The experience is priceless. And so, I've helped, I think, 7 stores now pick up the game. I lost one of my play groups because, my play group now has a new home because they have a new LGS near them.
Awesome.
Fine. I can use all the boxes I can get, I promise you. That's
gotta be like a proud parent feeling right there.
That has been very rewarding. I have viewed myself kind of as an evangelist for this game over the last, I'd say, ever since COVID, frankly. It was very uncertain what happens to Flesh and Blood as COVID hit. And I remember thinking, this is that inflection point. If you're going to go in with Flesh and Blood, you've got to go all in. You can't dip your toes in. You're probably the biggest store in America with it right now. If not, you're one of the top 3. You've got to take that seriously. And I think we have. At least I've tried to. As I said, it's a real privilege to sponsor play groups. It's a privilege to talk to LGSs who are understanding it, and it's a privilege to point people in the right directions, even if I'm not that direction. I mean, David from Unison Games makes the best starter decks. Chris gives away starter decks. I don't. So, if somebody says, hey, George, I want to get into the game, but I really need starter decks, don't buy mine. Mine are bad. If you want to buy boxes from me, I'll sell them to you. But go buy David starter decks. Go to talk to Chris. He'll give you ones for shipping.
If you want bad, it's free right here.
Yeah.
It'll get you an introduction to the game.
Yeah. And that's what these people are looking for. And so I think part of what I have felt an obligation to do with the last 9 months is take that responsibility seriously and say, like, this is a big enough pie for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to fight against each other because we can each find something that we're great at, and that will add to the overall customer experience for Flesh and Blood game.
Grow the pie.
I think that's a real beautiful take, and I love the word you use, like evangelist, towards the game, because you're trying to create something benevolent during a time where everybody is going through so many struggles, something that they can actually remember. Because what you did, George, is you created a group of people who are going to look back at COVID, and 5 years from now, 10 years from now, they're going to say, well, how was COVID? Well, that was the year I was, playing with my friends, and the year before I was playing with my friends, I was playing Flesh and Blood. It wasn't that bad because what you did was you created sort of a silver lining in America during a time where people have been really going through some form of a struggle and whatnot. And that's, that was sort of my take on the game as well. I have another job. I can pay my bills. I didn't need sort of the Flesh and Blood thing to, grow just for a monetary aspect, but I wanted it to grow sort of for a charity aspect. And that was just a really beautiful thing. So Chris and I, Chris was doing, the amazing box wars that he has done, and I've been obviously a big sponsor of those box wars for a long time, because I wanted to get, the word out. Same with you, like the same mentality, but I just took sort of that different avenue down. And I talked to Chris, and I'm like, you know what, why don't we just crack open the goods? Why don't we just crack open something nice? We're going to pull in a lot of people during these, so a lot of people would consider, 2020 a darker time in the country, with everything going on in other countries, as you know, of course, as well.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what, why don't we do something big for charities? Why don't we get everyone on board? Why don't we bring everybody on board with the feeling? And sort of what I've noticed is after, I did that with Chris's help and everything to sort of expand it, we had a lot more people opening up saying, you know what, you need a starter deck here. You need something pay shipping. You need something here. And then what it did was it created a lot of people who were not only supporting the game by just buying the game, of course, but supporting the game by saying, almost like what you experienced, hey, my friend is coming over the shop, he's going to come over next week too, and you're like, okay, that's when you know you hit something big. And when they want to sort of remove Friday Night Magic from the thing, you were like, oh my goodness, yes, now you know this is like a serious conversation. So I feel it's really the collective of the community that almost shares that responsibility of putting the game out there and sharing something they love, because they feel they want other people to feel the same way they do with the game. And I just want to point out, I think that's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great sign for the game, like that's what you're saying, that all these groups that started off with 2 people trying to start a game group now have 10 people, now have 20 people.
Mm-hmm.
The group that I started with had, they asked me to sell them a box. Well, now they just ordered 20.
Yeah.
There's, I'm like, well, geez, like, what are y'all doing with this stuff? They're like, have 30 people showing up. Like, what do you want from me? I'm like, okay,
Right.
they're on their way. Like, that's great.
And why do you figure they're all showing up? It's a lot of it has to do with the community that's growing up around this game. Like, the people that are playing it are good people, right? The people that are bringing their friends out to play, they're not bringing out jerks to play. They're bringing their friends. They want to play with their friends, and this game inspires. And free pizza.
Right. And I mean, they've done a good job of making casual play casual. Like, that is something else that they've done very, very well. Is I think it's very hard to play a casual game of Magic now. It is very easy to play a casual game of Flesh and Blood. You can play skirmish; it's very quick. Play Blitz; it's very quick.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've done a great job of understanding. You want to have an experience with your friends. That's 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You don't necessarily want to sit there for an hour a game.
Yeah.
And slog it out.
It seems like LSS really had the player in mind with this game from start to end. And I mean, I feel like it's inspired a community that can be something better than the Magic community from day one. And I mean, like what Mark was saying, just like how we've been trying to give the charities and create this kind of sense of community within the group that like, hey, we can all help each other and be a big family and not, every once in a while we find a scammer and yeah, we kick them out.
Yeah.
Maybe we kick them a little too hard. I don't know, but
That's not true.
Never hard enough. Yeah, never hard enough. I'm with George.
yeah. But, it was like
that's my favorite guy in the group. Even though he
But
gets
it-
booted.
when
But still.
we were trying to create something beautiful from the beginning, right? Pure entertainment. We wanted to make something that was fun and it was an escape from all of the darkness and all the politics, everything that's going on in the world. Like there's enough things
Yeah.
out there where like that you can look at it and feel down. I never want anybody to look at Flesh and Blood or my group as something that would make them feel down. That was my goal from day one. And like, so when Mark started talking about setting up these charity events, I'm like, dude, holy crap, that's exactly what we should be doing. That's amazing. And like, so the first one was Upper Valley Mend, and then the second one here was Duke. So can you tell
Appreciate
us
it, obviously.
tell us a little bit about Duke?
So we're working very hard on raising money for a full professorship of ALS at Duke. It is one of it'll be one of I think 5 in the country. Don't quote me on that. It's certainly in the single digits. For those of you who don't know, ALS is called Lou Gehrig's disease, stands for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. And listen, professorships aren't cheap at all. It's about $3.5 million at Duke, and we have risen about $2.9 million. I firmly expect that we will be able to raise that remaining delta this year. I think that we will have that professorship by 2022, which is amazing. Which is, I really enjoy what I do every day. I own the card shops, I own arcades, I own movies, I own a bunch of entertainment venues, and I find real meaning in that. I love my customers, I love my employees. I find that work very important. I don't want to be remembered for that though. Like, I think ALS for me is the thing where it's just like, this is what you want to hang your hat on. Too many people today are going to get a phone call that their loved one is dying and they don't know why. They don't know how they got it. There is no treatment. They're told to take them home and make them comfortable. And listen, that sucks. Like my dad got that call. And I got that call from my dad, and I was his caregiver. Right after business school, not going to visit Mark in New York. I guess I'm going to Florida to go change diapers, and that's fine. That was the most meaningful thing I've ever done in my life. Nothing else has ever come close. Nothing else, I don't think ever will come close. But it doesn't mean I want somebody else to have to face that decision, and we don't have to. And we're raising money to make sure that one generation of ALS patients will be the last. I hope it's this one. I'm overt about this. I think that we can do this. But it requires capital, it requires effort, it requires people who are grieving and miserable to roll up their sleeves and say, I don't care how sad it makes me to stay in the fight. Somebody else is going to suffer, and that's not okay with me.
Yeah.
And that's what we've striven to do.
I want to highlight that my brother worked for the largest ALS society in New York, and ALS is it's the ALS Association in New York. It's the big Lou Gehrig's society, and for those listening, it's a neurodegenerative disease that is progressive, that just progresses over time. And there's two things you said that I'm just not okay with. Just listening to you talk. George, right now, about just two things you said. You said, I'm hoping it comes by 2022, and I think we're going to be able to do that. I don't like those words. It's too important of a thing. I personally personally don't have anybody I know who suffers from ALS. My closest relation is with my brother, who worked at the largest society in New York. So one of the things that I do is, I run a trading service. I'm not promoting it, but what we do inside the trading service is that we donate to dozens and dozens. We probably have given to over 100 charities, and my mentality always was, there's only so much that maybe someone like you or someone like me or someone like Chris would be able to do for a single charity. But if we can get hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of people to all stand up and do something good, we can actually make a difference. And that's something that I would be very honored to make my number one go-to cause for 2021. We could do the Duke ALS Society. I throw videos. We've raised, I don't know, my guess is probably, if I had to throw out a number, probably $5 to $10 million last year between all the charities. But maybe we could do sort of like a focused thing for ALS. I don't, I wouldn't want to be somebody with ALS, hearing somebody saying, what, it's a positive thing. I think we could do it. I hope we could do it by then. I'm just like, F this. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's figure it out right now. So, and I want to,
thanks for that.
and what I did with the flesh and blood is, there's a video that I had, maybe a couple of you guys watched it, where I was talking about the value of flesh and blood in the future. And I'm talking to a bunch of day traders who like, value, whether they're buying a stock or they're buying, flesh and blood. And, there's potentially hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who who became aware of the game, from just one simple video. And with a lot of these flesh and blood videos going out there, they started, supporting and sponsoring it. People, like Saint, and I think at least a third of Saint's subscribers come from my chat room. And I think we could do something big here for ALS. I don't think our fight needs to end, and I think we can continue doing it. I did a little follow through with Chris Sayers, and I think it's just a beautiful thing that flesh and blood, your love in flesh and blood, can literally transgress into something like this ALS charity, something like Upper Valley Men, in which we are talking to Pamela later on, Chris, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we could do something big here, and let's just do it. Let's throw sponsorships, let's throw charities, let's throw these charitable events. Let's do something big.
No, and I appreciate that. I mean, more than I can express. I appreciate that. I guess we'll get personal here for a minute. I mean, I think I posted this in how much you're. And this is a guy who, God, he was a good guy. He had some pure bad luck. And whenever you're at the bedside of somebody dying from ALS, it's always very weird because you see the face of everybody else you've lost to the disease. And I don't know why that's the case. But, you see your dad, you see Lloyd, the guy who helped me with this nonprofit. You see these people, and then, you look around and you realize, somebody else will be in this bed tomorrow. Somebody else is going to lose their ability to walk, to move, to speak, to breathe. And another family will be grieving tomorrow where this one is. I mean this. It's just, I was supposed to go to Wall Street with you after business school. I'll be honest. I had to turn down a job at one of those fat cat firms to go take care of my dad. I never was supposed to be in flesh and blood. This wasn't the deal. I was not supposed to be in South Carolina. I wasn't supposed to do this. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Holding his hand as he knew why it was there. somebody who I think society forgot. And it meant a lot that he knows that I didn't forget it. And I won't. I mean this. Like, he is one of the 3 patients I think about every day. You know, obviously it means a lot that you're willing to help us in the fight. You know, and I mean this, we're so close. It is like, that's the part that, like, that is the part that sometimes drives you batty, is because, like, you know, we're like $600,000 away, and it's like, come on, you know, it's like, come on, like, we're there.
Yeah.
You know, and like, we're in the middle of this study. This is going to be a little bit gross, so I apologize to everybody. We're doing a study where you put the fecal matter of a healthy person into the body of somebody with ALS, and you hope it works. And like, listen, like, this is the new cutting edge thing that everybody's doing, is the gut microbiome. If this is right, it's over. If this is right, congratulations, you have ALS, take this pill. And we're already seeing some forms of ALS fall by the wayside. You know, I'm sure you're talking to your brother, you know this. ALS used to be universally terminal. Now if you have SOD1 familial ALS, you're not getting a death sentence. You're getting a treatment. We're making major inroads. It used to be universal. And I think we're going to live to see the end of ALS. I think I will outlive ALS. And that was not true 3 years ago. Like, we're getting there. Also, I'm going to reach out to you this week and let's talk about it. I'd love that. Obviously, I'd appreciate it. You know, we're getting there. And we're doing this thing, you know, with Flesh and Blood. We're, you know, I know Rudy's opening our boxes for us. I think you helped set that up, Mark, and I appreciate that. You know, you and Saint both helped set that up. And, you know, it's gone, you know, we got our first batch in. So we're going to put them up for auction. I'm going to put up a box of Welcome to Rife Alpha into that auction as well, of mine. I'll probably put in a box of Crucible. Debating putting in a case of Monarch. I don't know how LSS would feel about that. I want to get their holy blessings before I promise that. I don't want to...
James White at your door all of a sudden with the pitchfork.
Yeah. I'll be honest, more about Alan Hale. I don't want Alan Hale to with I know Alan Hale seems that he can win a fight. I'll be honest with you. He deals with some BS. I don't want to be on his bad side.
Makes sense.
UFC fighter by night.
That's right. That's right. The nicest UFC fighter in the world. You know, so we're gonna, you know, also to reach out. I mean, we're gonna get there. You know, this will be the year we have our professorship. This will be the year we create a permanent home for ALS at one of America's top universities. And it's been too long. That doctor has been there for 20 years, I think. No, 18 years now, I'm sorry. And he's never had a full professorship named. So he's just, you know, every dollar he needs, he has to fight for it. And, like, that's bull. It's too important. It's too important. It's too deadly. It's too quick. I'm tired of seeing important people having to fight. We need to give them what they need to cure this thing.
My own great grandmother died of ALS.
Did she?
She did. She died alone, pretty much, in a bed in a retirement home. You know, she was well cared for, but what the hell, you know? Like, that's no life. It's a shell. It's awful. There's.
Yeah. It's like caregiving is so hard for it.
I can't wrap my head around the $600,000 number, George. $100 million, $500 million, $1 billion. You're gonna give some numbers in which maybe we can make a scratch. We need to step up and knock this thing out. We need to step up together, knock it out. We need to spread the good word. We need to use Flesh and Blood, I feel, almost as a medium, and the things that we can do as a medium to get this $600,000 to Duke ALS.
We need like a meter or something that we can track.
Yeah. So what I'll do is let me do this. When I will call them on Monday. I talk to them, I think, every day anyway. And I'll give them everybody's contact and let's all hop on a call sometime this week. This will be great.
That'll be great. I do so many promotional videos at t3live.com, and I give free education because I try to help the average person do well in trading. And what I usually will do is I'll say, okay, well, if you enjoyed the video, be open to donating. And we have a lot of people, you know, on Wall Street with do believe in good causes and helping out, and
Yeah.
we should definitely hop on a call and knock that out.
Let's do it.
Awesome.
It's easy.
Awesome. I feel like if nothing else comes out of this is going to be huge
No.
right here. So
If we cure
excellent.
ALS, that was well worth the hour phone
just
call.
a
my God,
just
yeah.
a small thing we're going to do here, folks.
We
Love
didn't do
it.
much. We knocked out ALS, but
Yeah,
Love
but
it.
what is the value of a heart going to be a year from now?
that's the big question.
I actually did have a question for you, George.
Yeah.
It comes back to being a game store. You've been in it since day one, and big or small, you can decide what you think about your own size. But how did you feel when the big guys showed up? I mean, Channel Fireball, now Star City Games is on the scene. Like, how do you feel about all that?
I felt great. Are you kidding me? I mean, like, again, I think people have such short memories. It's like staggering to me. 15 months ago, my kids were buying cases because they thought the game would never have another print run and never have an expansion. And now we're complaining because Channel Fireball got more boxes than me. This is insane. I literally could not care less that John is making more money than me. I am happy for him. I applaud him. I am glad he is selling his boxes at, frankly, a very reasonable price. Both Channel Fireball and Star City Games, they have changed the market on Monarch to a much healthier place. Remember, these boxes were trending towards $400 before these two entered the market.
That's right.
That's a good point.
I thought that was going to be really hard for people to swallow. And I think it should be hard for people to swallow. Like, that's a lot of money for opening day.
Yeah. There's been a few times now where they've stepped in and kind of set prices in the market, and I haven't seen them set them unreasonably yet.
No. Like, listen, if they had come out and said, like, we're going to sell Monarch at $500 a box, I think I would feel very differently.
Yeah.
But, but they've been overall net positive for Flesh and Blood, in my opinion. And I think there's a lot of, I hope you're ready for some hate mail, Chris. I apologize in advance.
Here it comes.
There's some stupid jealousy going on because somebody else is getting more than you. And I don't know why we care. I don't care if Star City Games gets more boxes than I get. They have a market I don't have. They're going to get more crossover Magic the Gathering players than fleshandblood.com, I promise you.
Yeah.
No Magic player is going to fleshandblood.com and looking for Strixhaven. They're not doing it. So, like, at the end of the day, like, I think, like, I know that LSS has gotten a lot of grief from a lot of people about this, and I think people need to take a step back and realize if you want the game to grow, this is what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I think stores like mine have a very important place in the market. I think LSS respects that and appreciates that. Let me be very clear. Of all the card games I deal with, I feel by far the most supported by LSS. By a mile. They care about the local game store, in my opinion.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, there are people who don't have a local game store.
Yep.
Like, listen, a lot of them are going out of business, and I suspect a lot more will. And so, like, at the end of the day, they're going to be buying from Channel Fireball. They're going to be buying from Star City Games. Lord willing, they'll be buying from, fleshandblood.com. But, I mean, there's room for everybody. And I don't understand what has happened in the last month where people are like, oh, Fireball. Literally, I believe the second largest store for card games got more allocation than I did. How dare they? What the hell do you expect? They're the second biggest store.
Well, from LSS's perspective, they're trying to get the game out there. What are they going to do? Not give it to the folks that are going to distribute it the best for them? Personal anecdote, Flesh and Blood Unseals, I wanted to get my hands on a lot of cases of Monarch. And I haven't been able to do it up until the point where Star City Games and Channel Fireball entered the market. Now I have enough ordered that I feel like we're going to actually be able to do box wars on this channel, and we're actually going to experience that content. I did not have that guarantee before those big players entered the market because I don't have an LGS that has flesh and blood in stock, and they certainly couldn't cover me if they wanted to anyway. But
It's
That's great.
so yeah, it's so great too because I think and I think I want to highlight the point you said, George, about people having a very short-term memory with these
Yeah.
things. I don't think people really understand what it's like to have an LGS. I mean, literally right now on the New York Magic the Gathering site, somebody was asking about opening up an LGS, and the response was all you're going to do is become a full-time babysitter because you're not making any money in these channel fireballs and these Star City games. They're going out and they're going to be able to undercut you. Why is somebody going to want to pay me MSRP when you could go to any of these websites and get it below MSRP? And those are the stores putting me out of business. Now all of a sudden you have a game where people don't understand. There's overhead, there's rent. I mean, these people aren't, as you know, as what Rudy would say, are the evil investors, these
Right.
local gaming stores. They're trying to bring together a community. They're trying to bring people's kids together. I'm from a, very bad neighborhood in Brooklyn growing up. I grew up on welfare and everything, and I sort of went through that system. There was no healthy place for me to go as a kid. There was no local gaming store there. I think people forget the type of what community service these local gaming stores do, and what are they going to do? And people are so afraid, like, what are you going to do? You're going to sell your box for 2 times MSRP, 2.5 times, 3 times MSRP, 4 times MSRP, and people are so scared about that. And I look and I say, you know what? How about all the inventory that local gaming store has with Magic the Gathering that they weren't able to move cases and cases because their customers would say, I'm going to save $15, $20. I'm going to go online. I'm going to click 2 buttons, and I don't need to do this. And now all of a sudden you have a game where these local gaming stores are excited about because they know, and just like you know, I'm going to be able to move this product. I'm going to be able to sell it. And it's not just from the financial perspective, which an LGS, a local gaming store, is indeed a business, but you're getting rewarded for the community service that you do. And I think people have to sort of put themselves in the shoes of the local game store owners and say, this game is important because it's hard to get, because my local gaming store has it, and I want to not only support the game that I love, I want to support my local gaming store, and it's a good thing that these boxes are selling for whatever they're going to sell for.
People have lost their minds, and I mean this, where people are like, "Oh, look, this game is going to die because too many people want it." What? Like, that's the sign of an unhealthy market. Is that like there's so much supply? I'm sorry, there's so much demand, and the printers can't keep up with supply. That's a sign of an unhealthy game. Magic is a lot healthier than we thought, apparently. It's just.
and one of my
I would say like two things. Like whenever somebody says like, "Oh, this is so evil," you're not selling it at $80 for first edition. I ask them, how many boxes of Zendikar collectors have you bought for me? I can't give it away. I cannot give away Zendikar collector boxes, and the answer is always none. It's like, so you only want me to sell to you when you're able to flip it. You're not a customer. You're an abuser. You're abusing my store. You're not helping me. You're not helping your LGS. You're taking advantage of them. And I will also, though, counter that a little bit and say that I think LGSs, at least from my experience, have somewhat forgotten their place in the market. My job is not to compete with Cool Stuff Inc., Channel Fireball, and Price. I'm not going to do it. My Magic the Gathering boxes are never going to be $90. I have to provide a service that's worth the extra amount. And I think that there's become this kind of sense that an LGS is a distributor. And we're not. We have to provide service that means you want to come to me even though I'm more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, if I could give LGSs like one piece of advice, and I think we've done pretty well, honestly, is that there's something about your store that makes it special, and you need to highlight that. If you're going to compete on price, just close up your doors. Like that, you are fighting a battle that will not be won.
Yeah, good luck.
You have to have people want to come back to you because you're knowledgeable about your products. You care about the game. They care about you. You got to find something they want.
Provide them a space where they can interact with each other and have a good
Yeah.
time and
Free
meet other people
pizza?
like them. Free
That's
pizza.
right. That's right. I
You
mean,
know?
like, I think
Friday
you know,
night fab night.
Yeah. No, I like that. Don't tell that's my customers. They'll make me drop magic altogether. I think LGSs need to do a better job of providing service versus price, and I think customers need to do a better job, frankly, of understanding that a lot of products lately have been major duds. You know, Zendikar did not sell well. Caldine is not selling well. A lot of products are sitting on our shelves, and those products are outrageously expensive. Like, the great thing about Flesh and Blood is there's one SKU, and it's an affordable box. You know, let's look at Strixhaven coming out. I gotta buy draft boosters, set boosters, Japanese set boosters, collector boosters, theme boosters, and commander decks.
Wow.
I have 6 SKUs in each SKU. Each box, the cheapest one, is almost double the price of a Flesh and Blood box.
I heard they did the same thing with Modern Horizons 2. Now there's going to be collector boxes and shit for Modern Horizons 2, and I'm just like,
You know, and I remember telling my WotC rep a year and a half, probably a year ago now, well, probably more than a year ago now. I said, you guys need to watch your butts. I said, like, I'm selling a ton of Flesh and Blood. Players are loving it. And, like, frankly, the shiny, amazing part, they don't care that much. Again, hearts were worthless. Like, hearts were absolute. Like, you were upset when you pulled a heart.
the gameplay is where it's at. And there's so much
Yes.
proof of that out there now. Like
Absolutely.
if you've been watching any of the single sales, it's very interesting to see what's selling on TCG Player. You know what it is?
E-strikes.
Commons and rares, buddy. Commons and rares. People are building decks. E-strikes, of course, because it's in so many decks. But like the big ones, you know, the big generics, yeah, they're selling like crazy. But all these little cards, Barraging Brawnhide and Drone of Brutality, stuff like that, though, they're selling because people need to build decks, and they weren't necessarily able to get their hands on enough unlimited to build the decks out of their own cards. So, like, it's awesome to see that there's actually players out there buying these things. I just love seeing that. It's not just collectors.
I mean, like, I'll bet you for my in-store sales, which is why I do 70+% of my business, 80% plus of my business, I don't think I have a collector in my group, I'll be honest with you. Like, they've become more understanding of what they're buying because, like, they start to see these, you know, I've bought 3 collections now for 5 figures, one for very close to 6. You know, so that's all very different now, obviously. But they're not buying to collect or sell, they're buying to play. This is, to me, the sign of a healthy game.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there's a lot of talk right now online, but it's a bubble, it's you know, it's a problem. I think they're out to lunch, I'll be honest with you. I think the game is growing, and there's only so many of these fancy fans cards out there in the world. And if you want to collect versus play, you want the best. You want the best. And so I think what LSS has done well is you can play this game for dirt cheap.
Mm-hmm.
You can build a competitive deck for $30.
Yep.
I think that's the key thing that
Yes.
you said there. Because I was looking at standard decks yesterday, and some of the top standard decks in Magic, they're
Yeah.
like $300, $400, $500, $600, and we're talking like the newest product out there. And you know, going back, why is that with Magic? It's obviously the most popular game out there. More people play Magic than any other game. The problem is they know that they're going to get sort of the, you know, screwed by just literally opening up a box. I mean, the odds of them not getting screwed are like less than 1%. It's like,
Yep.
I open up this box, I'm just going to take $100 bill and light it on fire.
Yep.
I feel when you do Flesh and Blood, you can open it up. Some boxes are worth a lot more, some a lot less, but you feel there is almost value in the box, even if you open up a Crucible of War box, which is now what, $750, somewhere around there, and you get a $400 or $500 cold foil, and let's say the rest of the cards didn't add up to that $750 number. You're probably going to look at that card right now and say, you know what, 3 months from now, this is probably going to be worth more than $750, or there's a good chance it will be. You
Yeah.
open up those Magic cards, you're opening it up, it's like, did they reprint this, and are they going to reprint this, and how many of these are out there? I'm screwed for the next 10, 15 years. I will not get the value back from opening up this box.
So the two experiences that changed the way I sell Magic in my store, the first was with Throne. There was, I forget the name of the land card. There was this land card that was like 30, 40 bucks when it came out. And it was like, listen, there's a card that I sold all day long for 20, 30 bucks. It got reprinted 5 times in 2 years. And like, it's now worthless. It's now absolutely worthless. And the one that really stuck with me more was I had a kid open up $1,250 worth of collector boxes, looking for the best Omnath version he could find. He had to have the Omnath card, and it had to be full art, and it had to be foil. And he kept opening collector boxes until he hit it. They banned it a week later.
I remember that. That's painful.
Oh, I mean, like, it's worthless. He's like, well, you get me for it. And, like, what do you tell this poor kid? It's like, $10? I'm going to have to eat it. It's never going to sell. like, you know, everybody who has a commander already has one.
Right.
Like, this card's worthless to me.
It's just awful feel-bads, right? Like, here's a bunch of kids that are trying to get into a game and have a good time. And they're like, okay, I really got to get this card to make my deck the best, and I'm going to get this card, and it's going to be the best. And they're pooling their allowances, whatever they're doing, you know, and they finally get it, and then it's banned. What? That's like Lucy ripping the football out from Charlie Brown every time when he tries to kick the thing, you know? Maybe I'm dating myself a little, but...
No. I mean, like, you know, going back to what we talked about earlier, I mean, there's this collectible card game side, and Magic has seen, at least in my opinion, I will be very clear that they have firmly disagreed with me about this, and I have told my rep this, going back to me being very blunt with people. They have exclusively focused on the collectible side. They do not care anymore about the card game side, in my opinion. They care, is it selling? Is it shiny? Can I overcharge? And that puts store owners in a really tough spot, in my opinion. Watch, I'm going to lose my WotC license now. Thanks, Chris. You know? I mean, like, you know, it's just, you know, okay, I'm going to say something. I am losing my WotC license over this. This is great.
You could stop if you want.
Wants to make sure it happens at this point.
Yeah.
We don't want any in the middles.
So, like, let me be clear here that I told this to my rep, and he said I was absolutely dead wrong. And I have no evidence for this whatsoever. It is my opinion that they want Magic to go almost exclusively online. This is why they release sets first online. This is why they test hot sets online. They're, you know, Times Power were mastered. They have all the remastered sets online first. They realize that they can't just stop supporting LGSs, so they're trying to bleed them dry. And this works in a couple of ways. Like, I'm very lucky. I can afford all 6 SKUs for Strixhaven. I can afford my order's going to be probably close to $100,000 for Strixhaven. There are probably less than 5% of LGSs who aren't going to have to make hard sacrifices in terms of which one of these 6 SKUs are my customers not going to have access to on release week, because I got to get that cash in before I rebuy.
And then if it all just sits there on your shelf...
Yeah, I mean, like, this is, you know, and I've told this to my rep again. He disagrees, man. But, like, until Magic fixes the game, nothing else matters. I don't care how shiny it is. I don't care how rare it is. I don't care how foily it is. I don't care how good the art is. Until you fix the game, nothing else matters. And I mean this. If Monarch sucks, the game's in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how cool that foiling is. The game has to be good. The game has to be enjoyable.
100%.
And, you know, WotC just seems to be struggling right now with how to make the game work. They keep banning cards. You know, God, like, I think they said like 70-something% of all bannings happened in the last 2 years. I mean, they're not playtesting enough. They're not doing the things you need to do to make the game work. And it's coming back to haunt them. I mean this. If you go to my store, I will have. I'm very lucky. I have Flesh and Blood still, mainly because I ordered a ton of it. I have probably half a dozen Pokemon boxes on my shelf if I'm lucky at any one point. I have as much Magic as you want to buy. you want me to get you a case of Caldine? No problem. You want me to get you 5 cases of Theros? I'll get it tomorrow for you. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that has to actually do with Hasbro taking over Wizards of the Coast. Maybe the management changes. Maybe, as you know, publicly traded companies have to put a focus on shareholder value. Maybe from that aspect, they're saying, well, if we can print more and people will just buy it anyway, and that's how they keep their WotC licenses. Maybe that's the direction we have to go. I wonder how much you think of that has to do with the fact that Hasbro brought over WotC, because WotC was one of the greatest companies before Hasbro stepped in.
Now, for what it's worth, though, I mean, they've been through this before. The Wizards have been down this path where they were in kind of bad straits before. They've come out of it once before, at least.
But the thing I've been telling my rep is that they've never had this level of competition before.
Now that's true.
I mean, like, I mean this. I know when I told my rep what I bought a hard for my store, he thought I was crazy. I paid $18,000 for it. I had I at 23. And he goes, that's insane. I said, let me tell you right now, that card is going to be worth $230,000 or 230 cents in 5 years, and nowhere in between.
Mm-hmm.
The game's gonna live or die. And if the game lives, they're eating your lunch. And I mean that. I have 0 customers who have played both games and don't prefer Flesh and Blood. 0. I don't have one. Everybody who has tried it has preferred it.
Yeah, someone in the comments is asking fix what, and that's exactly what they need to fix. If Wizards of the Coast wants to be competitive long term, they need to realize that yes, just because Flesh and Blood is small today, that doesn't mean shit. If every person that ever plays the game decides it's a better game than Magic, Magic is going to start losing some mind share. And I mean, I don't even want to see Magic go downhill. I love Magic. I want Wizards of the Coast to fix the shit,
Absolutely.
like I'm all for it.
To live and thrive.
Yeah.
I would love to go back to Ikoria even, where like the set was fun. Ikoria was a great set. What Wizards needs to do is they need to freaking playtest. Some of this stuff just makes no sense. I mean, Commander Legend was sold to stores as a set that you can draft. Hey, why release it in the middle of COVID? Why not push it when more stores can draft? And also, the set's completely undraftable.
Yeah.
The set, my favorite podcast was MTG Goldfish had a great segment about this, about is it more fun to play Commander Legends or sort your comics? That's not what you're looking for.
Yeah. I heard that the drafts would go like 4 to 6 hours, and people were just kind of scratching their heads like, do we have to finish this?
I will never forget the first night we drafted it. My store manager I'm always in bed early. I'm in bed by 9:30. He calls me at midnight, and I think the store has burned down, and he's calling me, and he's dead. I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, well, we just started the second round. What do I do? I'm like, when did you start? He's like, 8. I'm like, it took you guys 4 hours for the first round. He's like, one of them conceded because they didn't want to play anymore.
Ouch.
I'm like, give everybody free packs and send them home. Like, this is insane. Yeah. I'm not going to have you drafting till 5 a.m. That was for me this breaking point where I'm like, you're not playtesting. Like, there is nobody who has played Commander Legends who has drafted it and said, that was a great draft experience. I wish I could do that more often. Like, they just need to playtest.
And I think it goes back to what I've been seeing on Magic the Arena, because that was one of my predictions why the value of Magic was going to spike up so hard, because you're going to get Magic in the hands of new people who could play it on their phone when Magic the Arena goes on phone. when you're able to play it on your iPhone, etc. And I actually was doing the draft in Ikoria, and it was great. You could go online, spend money. The Ikoria draft was amazing. It was a lot of fun. And I was like, oh, this is cool. This is fun. And I was somebody who would run a draft online in the middle, working and whatnot, and just run a draft like once a day, once every 2 days. And it was a lot of fun. It was a very positive experience. And, I feel there are many games out there that are better and more fun to play than Magic. I think it's just really important that people communicate. People like you, George, communicate with, with flesh and blood and the makers of the game so they don't go down the same path. Like you said, there's more competition now for Magic than ever. Not only that, I'll also point out there's more knowledge than ever. People already know what has failed in the past. Yeah. There used to be a game, Game of Thrones, the card game. I competed in SoCal Gen Con. I won Gen Con in the game. I loved the game. Never read the books at the time. This was years before the television show came out. And I absolutely loved the game. And it was a collectible card game, and it was great. And then what they did was they made it, they turned it from a TCG or a CCG into a limited card game where you would get the same. You're probably familiar with that, where you're guaranteed the cards by buying it. And that was it. The game just ended like shortly after. So I think it's important that when people are looking back to what you said, that people are trying and mad and upset that Star City or this company is getting the product and they're getting it all and they're making the money, because this is really how a game is successful. And I also want to point out for those people with maybe not short-term memories but long-term memories who would go back to the earliest days in Magic. In '93, you couldn't buy a Legends pack anywhere on the East Coast. You couldn't buy an Antiquities pack anywhere on the East Coast. It would be that one store that had 1 pack or 2 packs or 3 packs, and it would be gone in a day. You'd hear a story about it. It wasn't even available back then. So when you're going and you're searching for this stuff from an investor and a collector side, it's the most positive thing you want to see.
Yeah, I mean, like, the best thing, and I mean this, this shows how much faith I think we all 3 of us have in the game. We think it's great that these big retailers are selling it because we believe that when you try this product, you'll recognize it as superior.
Mm-hmm.
It is that simple, right? If this game was good, not great, we would say, I wish they wouldn't sell it till they work out the kinks. Listen, they've worked out the kinks plenty. Like, this game's a blast.
If it was good, not great, I would have stopped after cracking the first couple of boxes and looking at it and been like, okay, No, it's fun to play. It's fun to open it. There's nothing about this product that doesn't impress me more than my personal experiences with Wizards products in the last couple of years. So it's a beautiful thing, right? And
I think
we're all in a great place.
Yeah, I think we're in the beginning. I mean, like, I have full faith in this design team, and I mean that. I have lost a lot of sleep figuring what the hell to do with my Monarch allocation, but I have lost no sleep in figuring out, do I think it'll be a good set?
Yeah.
I think it will be.
Yeah.
I think
zero concern here. It's going to be awesome.
They take their responsibility to the players seriously, and I think they feel an obligation to the players and to the LGSs. And I won't say what companies, but I don't think all companies hear that level, that insight. That listen, they are responsible to me, and they are responsible to you as consumers. If you put out a garbage product, you're making me eat it, because the customer's not going to buy it. I still have to.
Mm-hmm.
I have to take my allocation even after I know the game is a dud.
Yep.
I cannot tell you how many sources is put under. They have to buy that $20,000 collector box order, knowing it's going to sit in that shelf for 5 years.
It's horrible.
It's awful. And I mean, like, I mean this. I think LSS takes this seriously. I think they look at that and go, like, I want to do that to you.
I know.
I'm going to support you. I have your back. I have felt incredible support from LSS. They have had my back. They have things to help stores grow if you're willing to do that. They don't sell to these online fly-by-night retailers. They want you to play the game. And that's because they know they have a good product. I think they're doing a lot right. I mean, I think they're hitting it out of the park. And listen, I would tell them if I did. My first call to Alan was me telling him I thought it was kind of crappy that I had, I think, 36 people signed up for Arcane Rising pre-release, and I got 6 welcome kits. I'm short 30. But 80% of my players, do you want me to say, thanks for coming, you get nothing to?
Yeah.
And like, he listened. And now they have ways to fix this. Now they have armory events where the winner gets it. LSS has gone above and beyond to help the LGS. You know, and I think, I mean this, I think I think this has not begun yet. I'll be honest. Like, I think when you tell the story of Flesh and Blood, we are not through the first chapter yet.
Yep. I think it's going to be one of those long marathon type things. I mean, how long has Magic been around now? 27, 28 years or something like that? Like, you know, it might be a little
28, yeah.
might be a little early to, you know, say that Flesh and Blood's got that kind of longevity. It's early. It is early, but I don't remember being this excited about my first games of Magic.
This is the only game that my store has continued to carry past the first round of boxes. I carry Flesh and Blood, Pokemon, and Magic the Gathering. That's it. I carry a couple boxes of White Horse people request it, but that's it.
Yeah.
I have probably tried 10 games in my store. I never bought a second box. The game wasn't good. People didn't like it. And certainly not enough to bring friends.
That was one of the keys. And I think that's just such a beautiful perspective. You know, Chris, what you're saying about you haven't been this excited ever about a Magic game. I mean, you know, all of us were so entrenched in Magic. A lot of our childhoods were entrenched in Magic. But to hear it from George, just coming from, you know, the LGS perspective of things, where I don't think players can really appreciate that from just talking to another player when somebody says, hey, they want to bring your friend to the LGS to play a card game. Now all of a sudden they're asking, do we have to do Friday Night Magic? You know, I don't want to be up till 5 in the morning in round 3 and have somebody calling you at midnight making you feel like the store burnt down. I think those are just very powerful words, and it really, you don't have to. I'll be the first to admit, I have yet to play one game of Flesh and Blood. There's just nobody around me. I'm sitting here. I have, the starter decks. I've given a bunch out. I've helped people. I've helped other people play.
Yeah.
I've helped other people play. I have yet to play a single game myself right now, but just listening to those words, it just shows you the trajectory of something. Because I can tell you right now, if I were to ask you, all right, here's Monica, are you excited about Kingdom and Kingdom coming out in the future? You're going to be like, all in yes. Now, what if there was a XYZ set coming after that? Are you excited about that? And you're saying yes. Now, if I asked you, all right, 2 sets from now, there's going to be a Magic the Gathering XYZ set. How exciting are you about that? And you're like, oh, boy, do I have to buy it?
How is it going to make the meta completely destroy the value of all the cards I have right now and remove value from what I'm doing? And yeah, it's a different feeling altogether, right? Whereas with Flesh and Blood, it's like, how is this going to make this more fun? What do they have in store for me next? Holy crap! What could they do to make this more fun? Exactly. It's kind of like that giddy, like kind of kid in a candy store feeling, right?
Yeah. Getting it right. And people always ask me, what do you think about these crazy prices? Because listen, let me be very clear here, they are crazy. But that doesn't mean they're wrong. We've never seen anything like it.
Welcome to 2021 now, I guess.
Right. That has been the number one question I get asked from new customers. It's like, what do you think about, a cold foil skull cap going for $3,000 now, $2,500 now, whatever it is now. And I'm like, I think it's underpriced. I think that's a great buy. I think it's a great pickup. Buy it. If you can afford it, buy it, in my opinion. And they're like, well, that's more than most Magic the Gathering cards. I'm like, yeah. Is it better than most Magic the Gathering cards? Like, don't ask, because it more expensive? Ask if it's better.
Right. Ask who's gonna put it in their deck and use it. And
Right. And I'm like, listen, like if you want to play it, go buy an unlimited. For the love of God, don't play with it. But
don't shuffle those cold foils without sleeves.
I guess my sport manager still plays with cold foil equipment as his deck, and I want to like strangle him every time I see him.
Oh my goodness.
Because it kills me. It kills me. I'm like, I know what you make. Please stop playing with this card. Listen, he gets paid a living wage. He gets treated well. But like, I'm like, dude, you're playing with like probably a $30,000 deck at this point. You're killing me.
Oh man.
Every card is cold foil.
That's insane.
It's like it drives me to the wall.
Oh, that's good times.
I think the market for this has not started. I really don't. We still buy and sell Fable and legendaries all day long. When people always ask me, like, how do you feel about selling these cards now? I tell them it's all very different. I remember the first time I ever bought a heart at $500 and thinking I just burned $500 and thinking I'll never get that money back. Who in the hell's going to buy this card for $700? Go for $24,000. Like this, I wish it was the same one, right? I wish I had pocketed that $24,000. But like, I don't think that's a bad buy at $24,000. I think a heart could be $100,000 by the end of the year. That won't shock me. I know Mark said that last year, that by the end of 2021 it'll be $100,000. And I thought Mark was crazy. I'll be honest with you, Mark. I thought that was absolute lunacy. I think you're right now. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure you're not low. I think it's far more likely that it's more than that versus less than that.
Yeah, I mean, I did a projection video. This was back in, late November, early December. I'm not sure if you saw the video.
First video you ever sent me. Yeah.
Yeah, first video I've ever sent you, where I was talking about these prices. People, even in the community, they're like, oh, you're crazy. That's like, 1 year projection for these prices. It happened 6 weeks later. Every single price target hit. They're like, whoa, what happened? This is crazy. I agree with you. And, talking to a lot of the sources I have in Europe and a lot of the big players in Europe, they're all leaning out to me and asking me my thoughts on the game and how much allocation that they should try to get for Monarch. And I said, get every single box you can. And once you see it explode in Europe, and let's not even forget Asia. I mean, you could talk about, Taiwan and some of these, some of the smaller places in Asia compared to China, Japan, India. I mean, you break into China, you break into Japan, and there's just no going back. I guess I have a good question for you, George.
Yeah.
Do you think we will see Flesh and Blood in a different language?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I suspect it'll happen with Kingdoms, to be honest with you. And I think they should, frankly. I think that's great. I think it creates some complexity in the market, and they seem to take the secondary market very seriously in a way that I think is good. Nothing would feel worse than buying a heart for $23,000 and hearing that they're allowed to reprint it in Monarch. That would feel really bad.
Yeah.
I think it adds some complexity to the marketplace to have two languages. I think it'd be great. Look at the Japanese War of the Spartan. It had some alt art. No, I mean, thank God I brought out both my distributors of that box probably 9 months ago now. Better to be lucky than good. I sell more of that than I do weekly. I think there's room in the market for two languages. At least two. And honestly, probably more than two is my gut. My gut is you could probably have this thing printed 3, 4, 5 languages and it'd be fine.
And I also want to bring you back to when they were printing a secondary language for Magic for the first time, when they had revised, where they were printing the foreign black border dual lands and the foreign white border dual lands, and what was it, German, French, and then in 4th edition I think they went to simplify Chinese, if I'm not mistaken, Japanese and whatnot. And I just want to remind you the value of the cards from then. Based on New York City prices, a Black Lotus back then when I was playing in '94. Near mint condition, unlimited, $60, $60. By the time throughout the year, as they printed foreign languages, it was $120. As soon as they introduced, when they did the fourth edition, I forgot. I'm not that good with the characters, whether it was Chinese or
it was something.
it was something. It was a foreign language that I could not understand. The price of the Lotus went up to $250 and then $300, and I almost feel like just listening to you say that and going back to your $500 heart, thinking, oh, could this thing go to $700? I think that's going to be a huge sign that people from the investment aspect of Flesh and Blood should look for. That if they come out and say, we are printing this in a different language, it's going to show you how it takes over. And the biggest chance of that happening is this penetration of Monarch into Europe, because that's where you're going to run into German, you're going to run into Germany, France, you're going to run into Italian, you're going to run into those, those countries. And once that happened, everything took off. Now, I want to bring up another thing. Do you remember when Fallen Empires came out? Chris, George, do you remember when Fallen Empires came out?
Yeah.
Really, but surely.
Dollar packs.
Did you think that was going to destroy the game? Because the cards were so weak compared.
I didn't think they were going to destroy the game, but I sure didn't enjoy it as much. I never felt like they had a place in my deck full of revised cards. They just weren't on the same level.
Again, this is where I think we all three of us trust the design team at LSS. I think they designed the sets well and then worked backwards of how to create value. Of how do I make sure that this helps the secondary market? Their primary focus is the game, and then they work backwards to how do I help the collectors. That to me is far healthier than saying, how do I help the collectors, and what can I throw on here so that there's a card that's playable.
Yeah.
Listen, I honestly, I know I'm just gushing over them. I think they're nailing it. I think, listen, there's a reason I converted my whole business to Flesh and Blood, more or less. And it's because I trust them. I think they do. I think they get what makes games better or worse, and they take that seriously.
I mean, it's literally pasted on their website, not fleshandblood.com, but fabtcg.com, where it's like literally on their website where they really care about the player and the collector. And I won't leave out the third entity involved, the local gaming store. They care about the player, the collector, and the local gaming store. I have never seen a game out there which was able to knock Gold 3 down.
There's an entire section on the Fab TCG site just for game stores to go print out resources and stuff. I don't know if all the game stores are aware of it, but
oh yeah,
like there's a bunch of digital resources you can go out there and just print stuff out if you want to. So
I mean,
yeah, that's awesome.
Part of this, what drives me crazy about when people are complaining about Channel Fireball and all these other ones, look at what they've done for us. Are you kidding me? We're mad at LSS for selling boxes to another store? Are you kidding me? They give you the right to use their logos as long as you don't sell them. You can make a bundle with your boxes to help sales. They give you the format for their play mats so that you can make good play mats for your players, and you can sell them at a profit. And we're mad at them for giving boxes to another store? I mean, they give you their IP to have on your store so that everybody has the same picture that's high quality, high res, so that customers aren't frustrated. When they click the little button, they can see the whole box in all of its glory.
Mm-hmm.
They do a ton for us, and I don't know why more stores don't trust them. I guess it'd be
I mean, they've been burned by so many products before, probably, right?
Yeah. I mean, and I think part of it's when things happen so fast, which I think kind of built some distrust in. All of a sudden, you could buy, I could buy hundreds of boxes of Welcome to Wraith. All of a sudden, Welcome to Wraith was sold out, Arcane was sold out. The hero decks, which I couldn't give away in my store, by the way, they were sold out. Wow. And then you had to wait. And I'm like, that's good. I get that sucks today. I get that today it hurts. said, I don't have a box I can sell you. But man, there's that much demand, and that's really good. Because they can figure out the supply. Maybe they don't make as much profit, maybe they got a big card on Monday, maybe they got to take a hit out on Pokemon, I don't know. But like they can figure out the supply going forward. What they can't do is create the demand. That has to happen organically.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just such an eloquent way of saying it, George, with the demand and having to really do this sort of grassroots effect for the game and whatnot. Because when these games actually come out and they actually want to grow, if you want to say, like, what did LGS do wrong? They didn't understand how amazing their game was going to explode in what amount of time. If that's the worst you could say about anything, any business, card game or not,
Couldn't predict the future.
you're dealing with all the right answers. You're dealing with somebody who gets it.
Yeah.
You know, I told you all this off screen. I mean, like, I remember the first time I bought 100 boxes, and my distributor thought I'd lost my mind. He was like, are you sure you need 100 boxes? But welcome to Ray.
We all
Please, please.
And it was, you know, and I was like, yeah, of course, like, it's selling. I can't keep it in stock. Give me 100 boxes.
Oh,
and, like,
man.
he did. And, like, then I made my order for the first batch of Unlimited. And, like, I remember this all these stores called me and said, like, they were all very worried about Unlimited. Like, this box is going to be a fight to the bottom. We're not going to be able to give these things away. I'm going to order 3 cases. They're like, well, what are you ordering? And I'll be honest, I ordered, I think, 1,200 of Wraith, and I think 1,000 of Arcane. And they were like, oh, big mistake. No, it wasn't. Like, you know, I was the only idiot with any quantity left for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think, like, and I mean this, you know, if you're an LGS who has this product, you gotta trust them. They haven't done you wrong yet. They've proven that they're in your corner. They've proven they can create a good product. Why are you ordering a case? Why are you ordering 3 cases? Even though I know this will hurt my allegations, so don't go too crazy on me. But like, you know, they will do you right. You know, I have, I think, 4,000 boxes in order for Monarch Unlimited. I'm not worried. Monarch's going to be amazing. There's going to be a ton of demand, and I'm going to sell them.
Love
It's
it.
that simple. It's
Love
going to be a good box. People are going to need the cards for their deck. There will be value in those boxes. And people are going to feel great opening them. It's going to be fun to draft. It's going to be fun to play with. It's going to be great. If you're going to trust them, trust them. If not, stop carrying it.
Yep.
And I want to also point out to the audience watching here, these are people who consider George a friend who's telling him not to buy this product. These are George's friends saying, look, I'm going to sell you whatever you want because that's what we're doing. But as a friend, don't do it, George. It's too much over there. But what it does really with all these unlimited products is you're going to be able to pull people in your stores. They're going to be cracking open these Monarch Unlimited boxes. You know what? A lot of them, they're going to look at online. They're going to look at the prices on, you know, all the different websites, and they're going to feel good about their purchase. So it's the dual experience. You're coming in, you're playing with your friends. I don't think you need to offer them free pizza anymore. That would definitely
that's
bring
over.
me by. Yeah, that's over. No more free pizza. Now you bring your own pizza. You know, inside the store, they're coming in, they're playing, they're having a good experience. They come to you, they buy a box, they crack it open with their friends there. They pull a good card. They're going home. They got sort of the dual feeling of value. They got to hang out. They got to play. They support the LGS. They bought the cards. They feel value behind their cards. They use their cards. They're excited not only about just looking at them, putting them in a sleeve, putting them in a hard protector, and, you know, putting it away, which, by the way, your store manager should definitely do with his cold foil deck.
Amen.
But they're actually doing it, and I will tell you, there has never, ever, ever been a game like that. Ever.
No. I mean this. I've never trusted a company more than I trust LSS. It took me a while because I wanted to make sure I meant that, and I do. I honestly feel no sense of worry about my very large number that my distributor will demand for me when my 4,000 boxes is going to sell because it's going to be a good set.
And that's got to be a real feeling of comfort after
Absolutely.
some of the other examples we've talked about already.
I
Yeah.
have freaked out more about my Modern Horizons 2 order than I did about Monarch, despite it being, my Monarch order will be probably 3 times the size.
Hmm.
It's because I trust them. It's because, and I also know that if there is a problem, they'll have my back. If
Makes
there's
sense.
a problem with a card in Monarch, they are not going to be like, well, sucks to be the customer. I'll talk to y'all later.
That's
They're
true.
going to do what they need to do to make it right.
It'd be really interesting to see what happens. At some point, there probably will be some sort of game-breaking
Yeah,
card or something like
there will
that.
be.
I'm really curious to see how they handle it. That'd
I
be
got a
fun.
good one for you guys. I want to play with Shiana.
Oh
There's no
man.
artwork in the game that I love more than her. I'm being told, and I've never played a game, I'm being told how
Yeah.
unplayable she is. I look at her, I love the artwork, I love her
I
facial
recall.
expression. Yeah, it
Yeah.
looks,
Oh man, have you seen people are
Is
animating her now?
Shiana going to be playable this set? Because I will put together a cold foil deck. I will come out. I will play a game with your manager. We'll lay down. By that time, your $30,000 manager's deck will be worth $75,000, $100,000. So we'll lay $250,000 on
Yeah.
the table worth of flesh and blood.
I think it will be. I'll be honest. I have great faith that Monarch is going to change the way we game from a player's perspective.
Yep.
I think they've already nailed the collector's perspective. I think Monarch is going to make cards that are currently unplayable amazing.
Yep. 100%.
I think like the most, if I could tell people one undervalued card, it's actually the card I have from Lisa, so I probably shouldn't say this yet. It's like,
Captain.
I think the Shard is like remarkably undervalued.
The shard,
It is.
really?
I think the Shard is gonna. I think that they will not leave a Fable at rough to use for long. I mean, listen, like the Heart is now getting some play. The Eye is now getting quite a bit of play,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is like that alone will be fascinating to see what happens with that because the Eye is catching up to the Heart. In terms
Mm-hmm.
of price. And like frankly, I have a much harder time selling Hearts than he was. This is gonna, I think the Arcanine Shard is gonna be one to keep an eye on pretty closely.
That's an amazing prediction. That is such an amazing prediction because that is the only Fable for now that you have to play a specific class, right?
Right.
Chris, what do you think is going? What do you think the most undervalued card is right now at the current levels? I think they all go up, but percentage-wise, what do you think has the highest trajectory? So George is saying
Well,
the Shard. I love that prediction. What do you think?
so there's a sleeper that nobody's talking about at all because nobody seems to give a shit about Cavdane. What is that guy gonna do, right? Like he's got some potential, but I've never seen anybody play him, try him, except for I heard one exhibition match or something that it might have been James White or something was playing him and schooled his opponent. So there's some potential there that's completely untapped. And my thought was like after I figured out how to really kick ass with Rhinar, I was gonna go try and figure out what to do with Cavdane. But who knows? Right now, it's just a rainbow foil in Crucible. It could be that we see Cavdane ends up being like a fabled young hero in Monarch or something, or maybe we see the adult Shiana, or there's just so many possibilities, right? And they're all so much fun. So it's
I'm going to lay out my prediction. Much like George, I don't have enough of it yet, and I only have a couple copies. But this is such a great interview and experience and hang out and get together. I'm going to say it right now. I'm going to put a price target on Shiana of $12,000 by the last day of this year. She's going to $12,000 because the more do you believe there's going to be more heroes coming out. And I want to, for the people listening right now, again, if they watch the video with my price targets on Flesh and Blood, a lot of people are like, you think it's going to be worth that much in a year? It happened in 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting out a $12,000 price target on Shiana. As they make more and more heroes and more people that you can play with, I think that just gives her more diversity. It adds a lot of things that she can do. I think that she's going to be a sleeper. People love the artwork, but the more and more product they make, it's somebody who can exponentially grow as the game evolves.
You think Unlimited would touch her value at all?
I think Unlimited is going to, when they release Unlimited Crew, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's going to be I agree with George. I think it's going to be Arknight Shard and Shiana are going to be some of the top 5 most sought after cards in the game.
Yeah. No,
I
that's...
think you're 12,000. I'll be honest with you. I was going to say closer to 15 to 20.
I tried to be modest here with the price figures after the last one.
I didn't want to. It's like sounds crazy, but I think you're a little low. I did see a Shiana for 9.5, and she's for sale right now. I thought it was 6 something, wasn't it?
I was 8,000.
Well, at any rate, right in that range, and like for a 9.5, and I'm thinking, that seems maybe a little expensive right now, but give it 6 months.
2 weeks.
2 weeks? I'm sitting here like, I kind of wish I had that kind of money in my pocket right now, because my Shiana did not grade out. I got a 9, and I'm sad. I want a 9.5.
I just sold one in the community for $2,900. I've been giving a lot of stuff out and selling things on the cheap. I need to definitely pick up a few dozen copies of Shiana, I feel like.
Someone in the chat confirming it is $8K for the 9.5. Yeah.
I think Shiana, Skullcap, Mask, and all the Fables are the ones that have buy as much as you can, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think those are the ones that are just. I mean this. I think a card will be $100,000 by the end of the year. And I remember saying this. It was just I thought that was insane. That was lunacy.
There's
150 I'm always done.
When we find out for sure, when we actually see those print numbers, and there's a confirmation that the number of hearts does not exceed, say, 1,000?
550?
I think I've heard
550. If there's more than 1,000, price might actually go down a little bit. I doubt it.
Yeah, I agree.
I doubt it. But I'm guessing that the price is going to go through the roof when the numbers are actually released.
That's my gut too.
So,
I just,
yeah.
And I think and the great part is you don't need a heart, you don't need an eye, you don't need a shard, you don't need a Shiana to have a good deck.
And if you do, get them in unlimited anyway. Get them unlimited.
Yeah, you don't need any of this stuff.
Yeah.
You can build a great deck for $20 and win, and that's great. That's amazing. And
Well, it should be.
And for those that love collecting, I know we all grew up in the '90s where we had basketball cards and baseball cards and all these things.
Worthless.
We love collecting stuff, and there's this whole collectible aspect to this game that is almost entirely separate. I don't think Easter egg will ever be worth anything close to a heart. It won't be, I don't think. And listen, that's a better card. That's an objectively more playable card.
Yeah.
It's just not worth as much because it's not the collectors don't seek it. It's not the card from the set.
Yep. That's right.
They've nailed it. They've done a crazy good job of it.
And on the flip side, if you do want the heart, there's an unlimited version. And if you do want this eye, there's an unlimited version. And that is the real beauty. I know somebody was asking me before. I'll throw in one of the user questions saying, well, what do you think is going to happen to the value of Arknight Shard when Unlimited comes out? And I said, well, it's probably going to triple or quadruple in value because more people are going to know what kind of an amazing card it is. I don't think you can play that class at the top level without that card because that's a class-specific fable. Here's my thought on Heart. When you come out and Monarch starts having these blitz games, which are very quick, I feel that having extra life might be more of and this is from somebody who hasn't played the game, just from, sort of the outside looking in. I think gaining life and staying alive during a blitz game is a very important thing. Like, there was only one good thing about gaining life in Magic, and that was like Red Weenie deck attacking you and running over you as quick as possible. With the Blitz games, I feel like they might be going down that direction to have very quick games. I think Hard is going to see a lot of play. I did going back to you saying that you can sell an eye easier than a Hard now. I did a poll on Facebook saying which one of these cards do you think are more useful in the deck, value aside, and it was unanimously Eye of Ophidia. I think as new heroes come out and new versions come out, people are going to see the value of these fables. And you know what? Imagine this. Imagine somebody chasing the hardest to get card in the game and paying MSRP for an unlimited box of Welcome to Wraith, and actually chasing it, buying a box at MSRP.
One of my favorite customers, he's a single dad, he has 2 kids. He came in, wanted to try a new game, gave him a box of Flesh and Blood. He never played any card game in his life. And he texts me. He's like, I just pulled this card, and like my son was very excited. Son of a gun, bought 1 box of Welcome to Wraith Unlimited and got an eye. I got a heart, I'm sorry, I got a heart. Son of a gun.
Nice.
And I was just like,
Awesome.
man, that is, he's like, is this good? I'm like, it pays for like, more than a case.
I mean, if you
You're
decide you
getting
don't want it, bring it back. I'll give you another case for it,
Yeah,
plus some
listen,
cash.
Come on in. I got a couple
You
of
don't
things
need
to
it.
get around. I think what you guys are saying is right. I don't know why people are so worried about the Unlimited bringing down the price of first edition. It doesn't. I mean, we've now seen this. We now have pretty good evidence. I mean, certainly I would say the Eye and the Heart have not gone down a lot in the last year.
I was telling friends, like, back in the day, I had this idea that I wanted to have a pile of Magic in my closet, that when friends came over, we could rip it together and have a good time, have some beers and whatever, right?
Yeah.
It ain't
Yeah.
Magic anymore.
No.
Now it's unlimited, you know? Like, it's all about having a pile of Unlimited to rip with my friends. So, like, hey, things are changing in a good way, I think.
And it seems like the pull rates are much better in Unlimited too.
So much more
So not
fun.
only they've confirmed this, but I've heard this from a lot of people, and I think that's also great.
They definitely changed. I mean, like the cold foils versus the rainbow foils. You get, I'd say it's probably twice as many rainbow foils as you did the cold foils on the equipment. So they definitely changed something on the pull rates. And that's not a bad thing. It's good because you get the equipment available and it's foil, which is, it looks nice. So like, you know, it's I think it was a great move because it makes that piece of equipment that was cold foil and super expensive more available for the Unlimited folks. So
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're gonna have a card that's legendary that's necessary for a deck, I think they have an obligation to make that card affordable. If they want the game to
100%.
grow,
Exactly.
they've done this. Like, they've done this. You can, the top end decks are not that expensive. Most of these people who are winning these skirmishes, their most expensive card is $150. That's incredible. Like, and like some of them are winning without those. I mean, like they've done. I think Unlimited is great. I think this idea of going to one kind of box is absolutely ludicrous. I think you don't fix what's not broken.
Yeah.
And if you look at LSS, they have not broken it.
Yeah.
They're
I
doing
feel
a
like
great job.
there's a lot of kind of growing pains and people didn't know what to expect, right? I mean, a new company, new game, new model, Unlimited, first edition stuff.
And again, like going back to when we started, short-term memory, you can now buy cases of Unlimited for what, $340, $360? Okay, that's the problem. Like, stop it. I mean, like, this is great. That's a great value.
Mm-hmm.
I've yet to see a case get opened that you don't get your money back, frankly. I'm sure somebody will tell them, oh no, I got one case that was a dud. I'm sorry. That sucks to be.
I've seen a couple, but yeah, no, on average, and especially when you start comparing it with other things that I've opened at least, it's just there's no comparisons. So
It always works when you have the most unique story. Like, you'll always hear somebody, oh yeah, I got a God case, I got all these things. In Flesh and Blood, you hear about that 1 or 2 cases where I didn't get a cold foil, or I didn't get, anything good, or I didn't get the value because it's the exception and not the rule. that is just, and if what you're saying, Chris, and that was a good point, if there really are twice as many, and again, we'll get the numbers, but if that number is accurate, it really shows you the positive idea behind getting the player who doesn't want to drop money on the expensive products even an easier way to get the same exact card. Beautiful. I think the rainbow foil cards are beautifully done, and they can have access to something, much cheaper. So they're doing everything right. And as George says, how does one fix that which is not broken?
You have to weather the noise and the storm of all the people, all the naysayers that seem to think they have a better idea of how to do it than you're already doing it.
Yeah, That's all the people have never made a card in their life telling LSS what they need to be doing. It's great.
Yeah.
I think, it'd be one thing if I thought that we would have a variety spell of Unlimited, but they seem to be on top of this now. I think they realize that they really goofed that first printing of Unlimited. I think if you gave them Truth Serum, they would tell you this. They didn't print enough.
Mm-hmm.
But they're fixing that. We're now, Unlimited's been out for 6 or 8 months. You can get cases again for 340, 360, maybe 400 if you're unlucky. Nothing crazy. Certainly nothing that makes you go like, oh, this is not attainable for the average player. Monarch Unlimited comes out 2.5, 3 weeks after Monarch First Edition. That's great. That means that it's going to get played with instantly. And for me, I would love if LSS would print both boxes simultaneously. That would be my ideal world. If they're not going to do that, doing it 2 weeks, 3 weeks apart is fine with me. It gives expensive boxes something special. You're going to be playing with the cards 2 weeks later. I looked at window to be as tight as possible. I'm hoping they release them simultaneously eventually. I really do, because I do think they appeal to different people.
Yeah. The downside with simultaneous is that you'll get folks that are accidentally going to buy the wrong one. There's going to be the feel bads, right? But then again, people don't.
Would be the MSRP, right? I mean, if you had identical MSRP, would you have to do a different MSRP?
Yeah, that's interesting too. That's interesting too.
Do that anyway. I don't think MSRP on first edition should be whatever it is, $100. I don't think that makes a lick of sense. Make it 150. Make it 150. Print enough for all of us to sell it at 150. And I have a great deal of confidence because I'm impressed by this print run, to be honest with you. I thought that these boxes would be creeping up to $400 already. I'm very happy to see, it hurts my pocket, obviously. I would much rather sell a bunch of boxes at 200 than half that number at 400. This is much better for the game. It's creating new collectors, not just new players now. Because you guys know this, you get your first cold foil, you never forget it.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, I got this card. It doesn't matter if it's a common or a heart. You're like, oh my god, this thing is amazing. And they run around and tell all of their friends, look what I pulled, look what I pulled. And that is the sign of a really healthy game. When you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off, yelling at strangers that you just pulled something, and it's a cold foil common, you've done something amazing.
It's funny, I actually did a video. I opened up one pack. I've only opened up one pack so far. And I opened up a Welcome to Wraith Alpha, and I got what you're saying, George, a cold foil common, and I did it on there, Chris, if you recall.
Yeah, oh yeah. That was live on this channel here, yep.
Yeah, and it was a cold foil common, and I was like, oh my, I was so excited.
It was awesome.
Yes!
You couldn't fake that reaction, man.
No, and this is, and I think the more people that get first edition in their hands, the more people are going to experience what you experienced. And your reaction was, I want more. I want more cold foils. I want more collectability. I want more cards. This is where, I think we were talking about earlier, where's it going on the collector side? The more people who get into this want the higher end cards.
Mm-hmm.
The market gets pushed up. And I just, I'm very, very happy
If there wasn't, I think we'd be in a much worse place
Yeah.
overall for the whole thing. But well, it's we've been at it for an hour and 45 minutes now, guys.
All right.
It's probably
You're having
about
fun.
time to kind of think about wrapping it up. I don't know how many folks actually watched this whole video.
All the cool kids will. We all know that.
We should leave an Easter egg at the end for anybody who's actually gonna watch the whole thing. What do we do? Let's see here.
Favorite ice cream flavor? Are we there yet?
Ice cream flavor? Oh man, I can't do that stuff anymore with the too much dairy for me.
Oh man.
Oh no.
Favorite Scotch?
All right.
Hard predictions? We already talked about. We already said Shiana prices, so I guess price predictions aren't really that much fun. Let's see. How about Crucible boxes by the end of the year?
All right.
And we're all assuming that Unlimited's coming.
Yeah. I think they've announced it now, haven't they? That Crucible
No, they have not, is my understanding. But there may or may not be some distributors that are asking people how much they want.
That some distributors have asked us what we order.
Yeah.
Like, I can tell
So
you
there's
that.
there's no official anything from LSS on this.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll say $10,000 for the case
For the
4
case.
boxes by the end of the year. 10 grand. Like between the 9 and 10 range, depending on
I'm going to go a little bit less than that, ironically. No, I thought you were low on Shiana. I'm going to go 8. I think, can I tell one more story? Is that all right?
Oh,
Oh, sure.
I remember when I first got Crucible, you could order as much as you wanted. In fact, distributors begged me to take it because I had sold out of Welcome to Wraith, I had sold out of Arcane, and Unlimited wasn't coming out yet. And I remember getting this box, this tiny little box. I was like, you guys, I said, of course, we're guys. You guys expect me to sell this little box for $80 when I don't have any other product to support it? This thing's never going to think this is going to be the done set. Nobody's going to buy this damn box for $80 a box. You guys kidding me? Whoops.
So $80 a box then, and that was less than 6 months ago, right?
I could not sell them at $80 a box.
Oh,
That
man.
is by a mile the worst selling box in my store. By a mile. I mean, I bet even my players who bought cases and cases and cases of Welcome to Wraith bought a case or two of Crucible. It's a supplemental set. And it's a weird set. It's not something that happens in a lot of other card games. Again, whoops, I nailed it. Back to what I said, you got to trust them or not. I think $8,000 will be where that case is at by the end of the year. You might be right about a sealed case being a little bit higher than that. Now that I think about it, because I think a box will be 2,000, so maybe you're right about that 9,000.
I mean, it's pushing 32 to 35 now, depending on where you look for a sealed case. So it's just a little bit over a double to hit 8 for a case. So if you're talking for a box to go that high, well, yeah.
Oh no, I'm talking about case.
Oh, case. Okay, yeah, case, yeah. So I think that's reasonable.
So it's 10 times more of value of what you were trying to sell to your customers.
Yeah.
Right now, 10. That's a 1,000% gain in 5 months, or Chris said 6 months.
Yeah. So y'all heard it here first. We all expect it's going to at least double by the end of the year.
I don't.
Fair? Again, it'll double again. At
Do
least.
you think any first edition card or box will double from where it is now in the next 12 months?
Quadruple or quintuple. I mean,
I think
please
double's
don't
conservative.
underestimate- Please don't underestimate the fact that we just passed a $1.9 trillion stimulus package, and the more and more,
Yeah.
you have to just remember these things sell in U.S. dollars. So the more dollars we print, the more course of hyperinflation, this is my stock market side talking, more like hyperinflationary direction the United States goes in, it's almost like I don't believe that any LGS out there can sell a product to their customer without coming back 12 months from now and thanking them and hugging them and giving them that bottle of Scotch, Chris, with some flowers and chocolates.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think doubling will be the low end of what I expect in the next 9 months. I will be very surprised if you can buy a box of Welcome to Wraith Alpha for $8,000 in January. I'll be shocked, frankly. I'll be shocked.
Same.
That does not pass my smell test.
Fair.
I think you could see that. I don't want to get ahead of myself. That might be for July.
We made a couple of predictions already.
Yeah. I think these things are going crazy.
And I want to highlight what Chris and George are, also and myself are talking about these predictions. You have to also remember on the Magic the Gathering side, and I know I keep referring to the, the biggest whale in the ocean right now. You're trying to get a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7% fan base increase by the end of the year. And Flesh and Blood, my guess is you're going to have maybe a 5,000 to 8,000% increase in players. So there's going to be, if you want to talk about Flesh and Blood, how about Fresh Blood? How about Fresh Blood?
Fresh
Fresh
blood.
and blood into the community. You're going to see something explosive like you've never seen before, because remember, at this point in the game, Magic the Gathering was in Europe. There was German revised, Italian revised. There were different languages. Right now, Flesh and Blood is penetrating Europe for the first time with Monarch. There can be people who are like, what's Flesh and Blood? I've never heard of it. I've only heard of Magic. I've heard of Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! I've never heard of this game before. They're going to be they're going to be hardcore addicts. They're going to look back. They're going to look at that $8,000 box, or, you said you'd be surprised if it's under $8,000. I don't think you're going to touch that case for less than $75,000. Do the math on the individual box.
Yeah.
I won't go there. You're not touching a Wraith case for less than 75 grand. Come January 1st, 2022.
And I think, going to what you're saying here, the biggest thing people are forgetting about Flesh and Blood is that the game took off during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
The game did not have this explosive growth until maybe at the beginning in February of last year. But really in March is when the game started to go like this. And so most of these stores have not reopened yet. So you're going to have a whole bunch of LGSs reopening, and their customers are going to come in saying, hey, I've been buying this card game from Georgia and South Carolina. Can you carry it instead? And that's great. I want them to. I want people to have a local game store that carries the game. That's much healthier than you buying it from me. And that card game store, yeah, I'll try it out for you. And now you've introduced that game to another 40 people. Multiply that out by the thousands of card stores that have been closed since March of last year, and you can see where I think this demand is going to come from. I mean this. I don't think we're through the first half, the first chapter of this game. We will look back at these days and think, remember when they were that cheap.
Love it.
I agree.
Hold on tight. Hold on tight.
Yeah, this is great. This is exciting stuff, man. I'm pumped.
I also want to point out there's a lot of, and I know I keep referring to Magic, but there's a point here, a lot of the biggest Magic collectors on the planet are in Europe. Some of the biggest collectors on the planet are all over Europe. So you have to remember, you're not just breaking through New Zealand and where the game, was. I mean, you're breaking through Europe. To me, again, 5,000 to 8,000% increase. You're going to see people who are going to say, what's Flesh and Blood? What's Arcane Rising? What's Welcome to Wraith? Oh, they have an alpha? How much is it? I need to grab it because I just fell in love with this. There's going to be people who are falling in love with this game for the first time, hearing about it for the first time, come May 1st.
Yeah, that's a great point. This is exciting. Like, we're pumped.
It's gonna be
Everybody is
rad.
pumped. We're ready for Monarch. Come on, let's release it a month early. Let's make our lives easy.
Awesome.
I'm
That
excited.
I tell you what, that would be sick, right? Just have it show up now. Yeah.
It shows up at our door.
Yeah. Right on. Well, I feel like we've been at it for a while here. We probably should wind this up. Man, George, thank you a lot for your time. Thanks for being a part of the community from day one. Compete Sports. If it wasn't for that, for your efforts from day one, I don't know that we'd be having this conversation right now. So thank you for being there when this game needed a hand up in the U.S. to make sure it got it. And thanks for continuing to be that hand up.
Well, I appreciate both of you. You guys have done a lot to help a lot of great causes. I can't say enough good things about either one of you. It's you know.
Yeah, Mark.
This is special.
I mean, like, Mark, I thank you for helping us find our charitable backbone around here at Flesh and Blood Unsealed. I really appreciate you and helping show that it really we can build community around here, doing things together that are important and actually make a difference.
And we're going to tackle that ALS cause, and if you think we're doing something big now, just keep in mind, as the fresh blood grows for Flesh and Blood, we're going to be able to do something magical for these charities around the world. I think we're going to create a global movement with these charitable causes, and we're going to make the world better one person at a time, and we're going to do it through this medium of Flesh and Blood. So I do want to thank you guys, both, George, for everything Chris said and more, for believing in this game and pushing forward and believing in such great causes. Chris, for everything you do in the community with the box wars, to getting people excited, to having people, even people like me, you have a long day at work, you want to sort of kick back and relax, and there's Chris, cracking open packs for you, and it's almost like feeding that, almost like that drug instinct, that, high that you get from opening up the packs, and you've brought that, in a good way, that drug high to
entertainment.
And I want to thank you guys.
Just kidding.
As well.
Yeah. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All
right. Well, we're definitely got to do this again, folks. Thank you very much. All right.
Awesome.